All right, so here we go, our very final mini training. So as I said in the email that I sent out, this is a really important topic because, we've all worked so hard to get all these new donors. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, but they say in all the statistics consistently across the industry that it costs about 5 times more to acquire a new donor than it does to retain a donor. So think of all the time and energy you spent in the last 4 or 5 months getting these new donors, prepping, doing back end stuff, whatever the activities you've done to keep that donor. Now that you've got it, it costs 5 times more. So the the truth is there really is just a few small but powerful things that we can do to build the kind of lasting donors that will stay with you year to year, that actually become champions too. And what I love, and I put this as the subtitle, is that your donors really are excited about being a part of your community. So let's focus on what does it take to make that kind of simple plan. Well, one of the things I love about this time of year when we're doing this is it is the most exciting time of year. I love Christmas personally, but because this is the season where people are focused on giving and generosity and gratitude, it's in the air, even as you go to malls and everywhere, you're hearing the good news of generosity and giving. But when it comes to nonprofit work, God's work is now on display. And because we share with people at the end of the year all that's happened, people feel inspired and they feel that joy of giving. And, it's really God that funds his work through all these different people. But as we know, it's kind of a crazy time of year for all of us because it's the time of giving that we spend a lot of energy. So that's where the conflict can happen, is people are excited, they want to give, and yet we're so busy that at times keeping new donors gets pushed back on the back shelf. So what we want to do is just for a few minutes, take off our shoes, all of the to-dos and the things that are coming up in your life, whether it's things you've planned, the unexpected activities, the normal pressures of year end, and to think about what are your new donors thinking and feeling. Earlier this year, I was invited to be on a tour to see the work of an organization. And I'll tell you, I was super impressed, and not just impressed by what I saw, because I've seen lots of different great work out there in the nonprofit world, but I was inspired to act and to be able to take part and be a part of this. And so I was super excited and I took action, and then crickets for the next 2 months. I literally did not hear anything for 2 months. And if you think about that, you share and people respond, that excitement that is there starts to decrease when there is either not anything being heard, there's not responsiveness. So for me, as a donor, my excitement started to decrease, my responsiveness to the emails that came out decreased, then my guilt started to increase because I wasn't listening and looking at the communication that was being sent. When I finally did reply to an email that I was kind of not understanding it because I was new, I did get a quick response, which really did then help me connect to the people that I really was excited. So when you think about that, people want to know what, if we've actually accomplished our goals. What happened? You told them about this micro grant. They really do want to know what's next. What do I need to focus on? What do I need to do? And even more importantly, kind of the unspoken thing is this community as cool, significant, impactful as I hoped? So that's, if you think about what it's like to be a donor, what they're thinking and feeling at this point after you've done all this great work, had this good communication, told them about what you're doing, got them all excited, and they took action. Think about this. What are their hopes and dreams? So just wanted you to, as a small group today, you can, if you would like to put it in the chat box, you can do that there. But what are some of the hopes and dreams that you think your donors might have right now? Like, what are they thinking? What do they want? Unmute yourself if you've got a thought, or put it in the chat box if you're feeling shy.
I think kind of the biggest part of fundraising is when you realize, these donors come on board is like they're part of the team now. They're actually the heroes. They're the ones making this happen. So I think they do just want to know like what I contributed was important.
Yeah, what happened as a result of my giving is my gift doing anything? And do they think I'm on the team? It's that wondering, in some ways it's like the beginning of a relationship, you kind of connect and then you move forward and then you wonder, does that person really think of me the way that I think of them? So does our organization see them as a part of the team, or was that just language that we use to get them to act? So this kind of is where you test that relationship on that. So I absolutely agree, Ashley, that they're wondering, am I really part of the team? Does my gift make a difference? What else? What are some of the hopes and dreams you think your donors might have? Maybe you haven't put yourself in their shoes, and this is a little bit challenging.
I know for me too, and I think I talked to somebody else recently about this, of making a donation of, what is your money going to? And is your hard-earned money actually going to God's work? And I think that was just something personally that I was like, well, is this going to a ministry and is it actually being ministered to, or is it just going into a bank account sitting there and waiting for the next thing to pop up that they need or whatever it may be? So I know that's something that we've tried to be transparent with our emails of going out to donors, and what we want to do is just like, hey, this is where your money's actually going, and showing that with our donors.
Yeah, that's great, because you don't want people to think that just sitting there or it's just going only to salaries and not to the work that's being done. So we often talk about new donors want to, when you're trying to bring them on board, you're saying this is what your donation can do. Now you want to say this is what your donation is doing. It's current. What's happening right now? And you're doing things, you're meeting with people, even if you just said right now in the last week, here's what I did. That could be a short email, could be a short update, but it's current. It's not just that one day down the road mindset. It's what's it doing now? And then to be able to say to people, after you've accomplished some things and you've got some success, here's what we did. Here's the past tense view of it. So now you can tell a little bit more of that life-changing story. I know for me, I've been around nonprofit for a long time, and I know that nonprofits do good work. But what I often question is that work actually bringing change? And that's probably the biggest question out there for nonprofit work is, does it work? Does nonprofit work make change in society? So telling them what their dollars are doing now, and then telling them those life-changing things that happened, they really want to know. And my hope and dream is that I'm committed to what you're doing and that this actually is going to change some lives. So it's sharing some of those things with people. Look at this. Here's an image. Here's some words. 3 out of 4 new donors leave and never return. That's the statistic that I was saying we need to be aware of. This is on an average, donor retention rates for new donors, brand new donors, are between 20 and 30%. And that should be kind of eerie given what I said before, that it costs 5 times more to get a new donor than it is to keep a donor. So this is where our challenge is. Now, of course, if you did focus on monthly giving and you have an auto recurring gift, this number does jump up. In the first year, auto recurring monthly donors will typically be 80%. So you can see clearly why we promoted getting monthly donors, not that you had to do that, but they will stay the first year for at 80% retention rate. But that doesn't mean that they're always satisfied. It's just because they're dialed in, they're committed, and they're, it's a no-brainer at this point. But if you keep people for over 5 years on an auto recurring, that jumps up to 95%. That's a brand new number that we're seeing. So there's some work to be done where nonprofits, we typically have 90 days after a first donation to form a relationship. So in that 90 days, after that, you know, there's things we can do in that first 90 days, but after that, retention rates just literally plummet. So you can imagine me with that example I gave to you. I heard almost nothing for 2 months. That third month, I started to get something. I started to re-engage. That's the hopeful side of it. Well, we don't want to wait 2 months, you know, and for those of you that got large gifts, most, just so you know, most donors don't make their biggest gift the first time they give. So the potential for, if you build that relationship, for them to be giving not just the same amount, but to give larger amounts is significant because they're building a relationship. So that's what this is all about. And donor retention, you know, it's not just about keeping that same money month to month. It's about having relationships with people who continue to care about what you shared was so significant that made them want to take action. And most of us are pretty resilient, so we'll come back. So one thing I would highly recommend, especially if you've never done this before, is creating what's called a giving pledge, or ECFA calls it a donor bill of rights, but I don't love that name. The idea is some kind of a commitment to our donors policy and then live it out. You know, this is some of the details in a lot of giving pledges that I've worked with boards on, is saying to people, you're not just a number. So what does that look like in activity? You're not just a donor. We know you by name and we use your name. We talk to you by name. And with a lot of our email systems, we can input people's names right into the email. We know them. We appreciate them. We're here to serve you, not just the people that we're serving in our organizational purpose of why we exist. We serve our donors as well. So think about what is the priority for you and your organization going forward regarding donors. What would be meaningful or appreciated by a donor? And then create a simple giving pledge that you could put on your giving page, or you could send it out to your new donors and say, here's our commitment to you. Here's our giving pledge to you as a donor, is we want, you know, we want to say some things about how you matter to us. So giving pledges are really important. ECFA does suggest and really encourage it because it also leads to financial trust in people. So that's one thing you can do going forward to keep new donors. Another thing is send that celebration report and thank you. You know, I mean, of course, I put in here email, you know, subject lines that you can use just to get them to open that. Cue the confetti, we did it. You want to give people an email that says this is not just another year-end ask, but says we want to celebrate what happened and what's next, because that's usually what their big question is. Did you hit the goal? And if you've already sent that message out, congrats, do that. That's wonderful. I would encourage you to not only do it once you hit the goal and you've already sent it, but you could send a second one out, I'd say within 24 hours of our big celebration, and add your own picture and say, look we did it. You know, here's that celebration that we had with these other organizations, and not only us, but this many other organizations did it as well. Anytime you can send a celebration report and a thank you for their contribution, people will open those emails and they will feel like they're part of a team. You're sharing something with it that you're excited about, and you're bringing them right into that experience with them. So celebration reports, even this now, and then even as things happen, what is it you want to celebrate? The next thing I wanted to highlight just is this idea of personal connection. You know, most people are going to say, I'm going to, you know, add people on my newsletter list. What people really want is to know that you knew that they connected. And I know, Luke, this is what part of what you had also given as feedback is just getting a receipt isn't that. It's not a personalized recognition of the gift that you gave. But if you make a phone call, and I know some of you are already doing that, you set it on your list of what you're going to do. A text is seen as a little bit more personal because you're texting my phone, and you know, open rates on text are huge. They're in the 80%, 90%. A handwritten note from you, from your board chair, from somebody, you could even have it from one of the people that you've served in different contexts, that is appropriate to do that. Or even sit down and meet for coffee. If you didn't have that many new donors, that's a great way to say to someone, we see you, you're on our team. So something that's very personalized, and I'd say do that between 24 hours and definitely within the first 90 days, something that feels like a personalized connection between you and your new donor. That will increase their sense of, I am part of this team. I am known. I'm not just a dollar. I'm not just a donor. And when it comes to regular communication, all of you really are saying, I want to get them connected to our newsletter. That's great. Add them to your newsletter. That's what most people will do. But newsletters typically don't feel personal. They don't feel like I'm on it. It feels like I'm one of a number. So if you can also send communication that's simple, short, concise, uses their name in that, puts a picture in there, a story, something you're excited about. Today, they always say casual, personal, informal voice makes people feel like your communication is personal versus really shiny newsletters that are all perfect. Now, you don't want to have spelling and grammatical challenges, but you do want to talk to people like you're excited about something, you're sharing it with them. And then one of my favorite little tips on this is, as you're communicating with stories and impact reports and thank yous, is to throw a little bit of humor in there. Everybody loves humor, and it is unexpected. So much of our work is serious. I mean, it breaks our heart when what things happen, and it breaks God's heart. And that's why we're doing what we do. And that's why we want them to take action. But having a little laughter and joy and a little bit of fun does the soul good. And so a surprise little bit of humor here and there is really worth it. And it captures people's attention, makes them feel connected when it is humorous and when they get a chance to laugh. So humor is one of those little things you can add in your communication that will help people feel connected. And probably one of my favorites is invites. When you think about a personal invitation, you're invited to something that does tell you you're a part of our community. So what are some of your ideas? What are some of the things that you might be able to invite your new donors to be a part of? Love to hear. Unmute yourself. Let's share a few ideas of what might you be able to invite a new donor to come and to do. Any thoughts on things that you could do in your context?
You mean like on behalf of the ministry, or?
Could be on behalf of ministry. Yeah, like what are you thinking? Tell me what's in your head, Ashley.
Well, because we've moved more to like training and equipping, since they helped fund the tools that we're going to be getting out there. I kind of want to do like, they get like first, they're going to have first access to them, and then be like, hey, can you guys share this with people that would need it? Those type of things. I was thinking more like they become the announcers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So you're inviting them to actually get your resources and share with other people. But if you create that as an invitation, we would love to invite you to look at our resources and to use them yourself. Because if you invite people, it makes them feel special. If you just say, hey, we've got some resources, share with your people. It just has a different tone to that. But I love the idea that because you've got resources, and everybody knows people who have experienced loss. And so to use those resources is it's very generous for you, and it gets them involved. Excellent. Good. Anyone else an idea? What else could you invite your new donors to do? All right, I'm going to help prime the pump. Here's a few ideas. If you have a location where people do things, you can invite them for a visit or a tour. And that is a great way. Just come see us. Hey, come down, and even if it's just your office, some of you have really cool stuff in your office to be able, I want to tell you a story. I'd love you to come to my house, come visit me in my office. If you have a physical site, come for a tour, come see something that we're doing, or join us for a special event. Maybe you're going to do a baptism. Maybe you are going to do a graduation of some kind or some celebration that is programmatic. Invite your new donors to join in that, or an evening program of some kind. Actually, I don't even know if it would be appropriate for some of your new donors if you organized somebody's, celebration of life event, saying, we're going to do a celebration of life event. And if you want to see what that looks like and how we serve other people, I'd love you to be a guest. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but that's the kind of thing you're doing, and let people have a glimpse of what that is. Or even if you're going to have a Christmas party, maybe you've never had one because just you, yourself, and I, but maybe you say, we're going to have a Christmas party with our new donors. Come and be a part of that. Or invite them to come to coffee to your house or somewhere else. Any of those kinds of ideas. Fill out a survey. We want to invite you to give us some feedback. You could have that feedback in a lot of different ways, whether it was their experience of how do you want to communicate? What do you love? Why is the work that we're doing important? That's a great survey question, and different things like that. So invite them to volunteer. Maybe you're going to have an evening where you want to stuff some envelopes, or, you want to send out some things to your people. So what could they do to volunteer? All of these are ideas that you can say, not only do we see you as somebody that gives us money, but you could come and be a part of this. And sometimes we feel guilty when it comes to volunteering, like, oh, they're already giving. But, people like, and they'll tell you no if they don't want to do it. But those are ways that people feel connected. All right, here is this is a bigger than a easy step, but I think is really important. And if you spent between now and the middle of January and created a simple welcome series, you will save yourself a lot of time and energy. And I love this idea of taking email number 1, welcome to our community. Can you imagine if that I was super excited, I got engaged, and immediately they sent me an email that said, welcome to our community. You could add a videotape from your participants that said, thank you for being a part of making this happen. That would be an easy video you could do on your phone. You could have a welcome to our community. Here's some things you need to know about us. You can go and put links to your website, check this out. But anything that's around the community, you could put in a very simple email that you could send to all your new donors that come throughout the year. Save you a lot of time if you create the series. And then reiterate your vision. Email number 2. What do you do? Why do you exist? We call that the PSR, problem, solution, result. What's the problem you are trying to solve? Why do you exist? What is the solution you are called to do? And then what's the result? So this gets them a little bit more connected, not just to the community, email number 1, but you're also now connecting them a little deeper to what their gift is doing. And, donors need a reminder, because even though they got excited and they gave to it, they might forget aspects of what you do and what makes you unique and different. So this gives them another opportunity to remember that. Email number 3, what we want you to know from you. We want to know you. We want to know some of your thoughts of, why did you think this importance work? What's your story that makes you want to be a part of this? What are your preferred ways of communicating with you? Do you want to hear by email, by text? What kinds of things are you interested in? You can do a simple survey, 3 questions, and get some feedback from people. And then again, builds that 2-way relationship, not just one way, not just about money. Impact stories, number 3, you pick one of your favorite life-changing impact stories with pictures and you send it to them. Everyone hears about that one story after they become a new donor. It's like your favorite story that you want to tell, and you want everyone that connects with you to know it. Make it part of your welcome series. And then last, what's the next opportunity? And this is, that thing where we're probably not saying it's money, but it could be that another invitation that says, if you're interested in these different things, we'd love you to come and do this. So again, it's inviting people to be a part. So welcome series, once you sit down and think it through, it will save you an enormous amount of time and energy. It'll give you the confidence your people won't have crickets afterwards and you won't forget, but you just set it up and you go, okay, new donor, here's what I'm going to do. Start this email. the next one. If you have an automation in your CRM, awesome. That'll make it easier. You set it up, you hit go with a new donor, and then you don't even think about it. If you don't have automation, it's not that hard to put yourself a note and just send one per week, one every 2 weeks. So you have a good welcome series that gives people some basic information as you go. So that's all I was gonna touch on for today is here's those things. Put yourself in your donor shoes, create a giving pledge that you share with your donors, that they're important to you, and how are you going to treat them? What is that going to look like? Send them some kind of a celebration report. Make sure you make personal connections so that people get connected to you voice to voice, not just in a general email, not just in a newsletter. Communicate regularly, connect them, send personal invitation, invite people to do something, and create your own welcome series. And do these kinds of things within that first 90 days so that you are on the road to build a relationship with these new people and then keep them. And hopefully they'll be so excited about what you're doing in those first 90 days. They will continue. And not only that, they'll become champions, sharing it with other people. It takes time to get a new donor connected and then become champions for the long haul. So that's it for today. Would love to hear any questions you might have. Maybe this has stirred up a plan. You go, all right, this is one of the things I'm going to do. Or maybe there's something that just jumped out, some insight you gained that you wanted to share with everybody. But would love to hear any of those things. Questions, some of your thoughts and things you're going to take action or insights. Feel free to unmute yourself. I'm going to stop sharing. Would love to hear from you guys.
Well, I just wanted to share something that I found very interesting as I've been a ministry leader now for 3 years. To me, I don't see myself as anything different, but I've realized now more and more to the community that they do look at me like that. And so it does make a difference when I personally reach out. Whereas when I worked for a very large nonprofit ministry in Tucson, we weren't personally texting or calling our major donors, even though, yes, I was the one going and meeting with them and having lunch and stuff. I just worked on behalf of a huge nonprofit, but now that I'm in this position, I've realized it's so much simpler in ways when you're like grassroots and but it means so much more to them because it's almost like, well, if you're going to the mom and pop diner that, is like surviving because you showed up versus going to Chili's or something, right? Where you're just, again, you're just a number as a, ministry versus, right? So that part in this whole process has just been huge to me as I've seen people step up and be a part of the team. I'm like, wow, that instant reaching out to them, I think they were kind of surprised at, and they appreciate, and I was surprised that they were not annoyed with me. I guess I had that kind of perspective of before, before of hey, don't get too personal with them. But now it's no, get super personal, and it's relational, and it's ministry. We minister to our donors as well. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents.
Good word, Ashley, because that is, and even those bigger groups, they're paying a lot of money now to create personalized, responsive fundraising that moves away from that big. So the fact that you can do it with a smaller number of donors right now is manageable. And you're right, people actually are grateful for the connection rather than offended or annoyed, even in a busy world. Because if you put yourself in their shoes, they actually are excited about the work you're doing. That's why they gave to it. And a lot of times I think we forget, as soon as the gift comes in, we're like, oh no, it's money. It's about money. And they're about the passion of what you're doing. They're excited about that. So when you reach out and match that excitement, that is it's a match that starts to burn a fire, and people are like, I'm interested. You might even find you get some board members out of doing stuff like that at this stage. So it is very meaningful to people. I'm glad that you see it and you're experiencing that yourself.
Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I think what you found is normal But it doesn't always play out that way. And what I mean by that is you're reaching out to either say thank you or to make another invitation or to express something that you're grateful for. And sadly, people are surprised by that, right? And they're surprised in a good way. You said you found that they didn't take it as annoying or anything like that. And that's because it was a pleasant surprise for them. What's annoying to people is after they give, and then we reach out right away and ask them if they will give again, or ask them if they will give more. And so when we make a personal connection, though, when we're not making an ask, just to learn about them, engage in conversation, maybe invite them to another opportunity to participate, like Heather talked about, that is a pleasant surprise to people, and they typically welcome that.
For sure.
Mhm. Luke or DJ, anything that you're thinking about that is stirring, from today and what our conversation is?
I just wanted to say appreciation to Heather, both you and Jonathan. There's more information these last 10 weeks, I don't know exactly what we count, than I've been able to implement. And every time there's just one golden nugget at least that is just amazing. That idea of the sequence of when somebody begins to donate. We do something similar to that. People involved in the ministry of saying, okay, now that you're part of the ministry, here's your next step. For ministry leaders, but have never thought of that from the donor's perspective. Really looking at them as part of that. Hey, let's help them in their journey to let them know kind of what they can expect from us, what we're expecting from them. Golden nugget, really appreciate that. And I know this is, again, the beginning of the whole process of fundraising. It's not just, again, this one part and it's done. It's an ongoing process. So I look forward to looking back at some of the notes, the PowerPoints, the recorded session. So really appreciate everything.
And you have been like a sponge. So you are also welcome to all of our future things that we're going to do. And there's a number of resources online, so you can use these ones, others as you go. But all of you have taken really significant steps forward in your fundraising and your donor relationship building. And it is a journey. And it's one step at a time, rather than my friends in Africa said, you Americans like to eat the elephant, appendages at a time. We like to take bites. We eat the elephant one bite at a time and don't want to choke on it. And I think we tend to try to do all of it at once. And so I think you guys have done a phenomenal job taking a good chunk, some good bites, but moving things forward, and just keep doing the same. Any words of wisdom, insights, thoughts on your new donors what you're going to do?
Yeah, I think just the personal touch. I'm going to actually go today and just send each one an individual email and kind of just giving them an update on where we were with the matching grant and that kind of stuff. Because I think realistically, after all the conversations and every meeting and all the stuff, the only donations we ever got was from an individual conversation. So I think I need to just take that extra step and send them that individual aspect of saying thank you.
Yeah, that's a good reflection. We've said over and over that for donors, sometimes it takes 6-7 times to hear something. And I absolutely agree, Luke, that usually the big shift is when you actually make a meeting. But all the other stuff kind of primes that pump, and you never know. But that the personal ask, the personal thank you, that's truly where it matters the most. Where you spend your time the most is in that relational, one-on-one, the courage to ask, and then the ability to say thank you afterwards. That's where people feel like, all right, this is different. This is not just big machine fundraising, that you are a number, you're just a money giver. We appreciate you. We know you by name. We care about you. And in some cases, other organizations are, really moving toward, and we pray for our donors. We We have an ear to our donors. We care about them. Excellent. Well, it's good today. I appreciate all of your comments, your reflections on this. And as you continue moving forward, eager to see, imagine, think about what you're going to do a year from now when you look back and, you know, the donors that you have acquired, looking back and seeing how is that retention rate for you? Are you going to crush those numbers and go, it's not just 1 in 4, but I'm going to keep all 4 because I'm going to build a relationship with them and I'm going to blow those statistics out of the water and add new donors as you go along. That's what our dream is for our people. And it happens in not small nonprofits just starting out. You can do that.